Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Darian Jones. I'm the Caregiver Education and Digital Specialist at Care Partners. We are here today for another Hot Topic Live segment. We're going to be covering a topic that isn't always people's favorites, but it's still very, very important. And the more you know in preparation, the more stress you can save, the less stress you'll have, and the more money you can save. So this will be a really helpful, important topic today. And we're going to be talking about how to avoid the funeral trap and hidden costs. And Stephanie Salcedo from Secure Your Legacy is here again to share some information with us about that. Before we get started, though, I just want to let you guys know that if you guys have your stories to share, or if you guys are doing anything at home to stay busy, we'd love to hear from you. If you guys could just email us at info@carepartnerstexas.org. We'd love to hear how you guys are staying active, if you guys are doing crafts, activities, just going on walks. We really miss you guys, and we just want to know what you guys are doing. And then also, for anyone who is looking for some more connection and just hoping to share their stories and what they're going through right now, we've been offering a teleconference Common Ground support group via the telephone twice a week. So we had one earlier this morning at 10 a.m., and we'll have another one on Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m. And you can go to our website, carepartnerstexas.org, and go to the Find Help Common Ground section for all the information on how to get involved in that. And now that brings us to today's topic. I'm going to bring up Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So today we are going to be talking about how to avoid the funeral trap and hidden costs. But before we get started, do you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself and give us a little intro about what you're talking about?
Great. Absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for having me on your segment today. I am a funeral negotiator. My name is Stephanie Salcedo. I am the owner and founder of Secure Your Legacy, an agency based out of Sugar Land. I'm also the president of a nonprofit organization called the Funeral Consumers Alliance. And what I'm here to do today is to help and guide the consumer when it comes to end-of-life planning. This is a very difficult topic to talk about, but unfortunately it's a topic that many families need to learn and need to know about. Unfortunately, there's just so many tragedies and so many things going on throughout the world today and each and every day in our lives. And having to plan a funeral service at the time of need without preparation is really not the smartest thing to do. A lot of folks, that are listening to this segment today may be well funded, may not have an issue financially to be able to fund their own funeral plan or services. Then I may have a lot of folks who unfortunately are not able to afford an actual funeral service. And I want to share a lot of tips with you, a lot of good information. First, I'll start off by mentioning I am not a licensed funeral director. I am an insurance broker. I'm not here to portray or act like I'm a licensed funeral director. My expertise is helping the consumer. My expertise is educating y'all on the do's and the don'ts. Because if you don't know what you don't know, it will cost you big time. So it's extremely important that you do take some notes, follow my guide, because you will find my segment today very informative. Most importantly, there's 3 types of funerals. And, if you have gone through a loss, if you are having to plan for a loved one who is terminally ill right now, and this is not the best time for you, my heart goes out to you. I know it's very difficult to have to talk about this, but as I mentioned, it is something that needs to be discussed. The number one topic, or the number one advice that I can give to each and every one of you: shop the industry. Shop the industry. If a sudden passing occurs, that's not the appropriate time to be scrolling through your phone trying to figure out which funeral home you're going to call. As an independent broker, I come with more than 15 years of experience. I've helped thousands and thousands of people, and I've guided folks, whether it's a pre-need or an at-need basis. I give you advice on an at-need basis. As I said, I'm not a funeral director, but I can provide you with as much advice as far as what to do according to what the wishes and services and the last final wishes or desires that your loved one wished for, whether it was cremation or burial. But one of the things that I will share with a lot of folks is When you have, there's two ways to do it. You're either going to do it at an at-need basis or prepaid basis. Unfortunately, it's going to happen to each and every one of us. It's very difficult to have to go through this, but on an at-need basis, here's what I'm going to share with everyone. If you do not have a pre-arrangement in place and a sudden passing occurs, shop the market. You are welcome to call me and ask me questions on, price involved, cost involved, but definitely shop the market. There's a big problem going on right now, and I would say this is probably going on within the United States, but it's a huge problem. A lot of families have purchased cemetery property many years ago, and they've passed away. Maybe let's just say they bought 6 cemetery plots. Mom and dad passed away, purchased an additional 4 plots to be able to leave for their 4 children who are left behind. And the problems that are going on right now with people that own cemetery property, a lot of these folks are not documenting. Y'all are not documenting your paperwork as far as cemetery paperwork correctly. And the reason I say that is because when you own property, automatically a lot of people think, well, I own the real estate. That's my property. I have all the rights and they go to my children. At a cemetery park, you own what we call interment rights. You don't own the actual property. You own the interment rights. And when your mother and father, if they were the original owners, pass away, the property or the interment rights therefore goes to all 4 of the children. So if there is confrontation in a family where, let's say, 2 siblings do not talk to each other, that's going to become an issue because all of the children would need to sign to be able to transfer the property to another sibling or another child. If you have it stipulated in your will, and I'm not an attorney, I do advise you to get advice from an attorney. But if you do have it stipulated in your will, section so-and-so as far as a cemetery plot, and you do go to probate, then that kind of changes a lot of things and makes it a lot easier for your executor or your executors of your will. But if for whatever reason you don't go to probate, these are the documents that you are going to need. Number 1, you're going to need the original deed of that property. If you don't have the original deed, then you're going to need to sign an affidavit of lost deed. That's going to be number 1 that you're going to need to do. Number 2, you're also going to have to sign an affidavit of heirship in the event that maybe some of your siblings have passed away and they had no children. These are documents that you would need. A quitclaim. If you're transferring the property from one person to another, the cemetery is also going to need a quitclaim. So there are several documents that are going to be needed to be able to do a transfer of a cemetery plot. A lot of families are trying to sell their cemetery plots online or to a friend without even having clearance that they're actually the original or going to be the deed owners to be able to transfer that property. So it's extremely crucial that you get all of this in place before mother or father or someone passes away who owns that property. Another thing many people need to know as well is that there are transfer fees involved, anywhere between $115 to over $700 to transfer the name from one person to another. So you have to be aware of what's going on in the industry as far as cemetery property, because unfortunately a lot of folks are losing their plots. They're not able to sell them. So it's a big crisis, big problem, big situation we have going on in Houston. There's a lot of good information for those of you who really want to dig deeper into the conversation of funerals and how to plan and how to be prepared. The Funeral Trade Commission provides a lot of good informative information. If you go to consumers.ftc.gov, they provide a lot of great information. And one of the good tips that they do provide to the consumer is that you are able, when doing a burial, you are able to purchase your own casket from a third-party vendor. A lot of folks say, oh my goodness, I saw caskets being sold from Costco's to Walmart. Yes, indeed, you are able to purchase a casket outside of the funeral home. Many of the funeral homes may possibly say, well, you know what, we're not responsible if it gets dinged, if it gets chipped, if it gets scratched. They'll share that with you. But just know that if there is a savings involved, that's going to be one of your biggest savings because of all of the markups that are going on right now with caskets. A lot of folks have not been able to afford a funeral service because it's gotten so outrageously expensive. During this crisis, I have seen many of the funeral home providers, um, you know, have a change in price. They've had a price increase on their services. And it's very unfortunate because a lot of families don't realize that these prices go up every single year. So it's extremely crucial that you pre-plan, be proactive, get your affairs in order today, because this is something that it's unfortunate we're all going to go through one day or another. What I will share with each and every one of you, the caskets. A lot of folks will tell me, well, Stephanie, I don't know how to go about ordering a casket. There are casket vendors out there that will sell to the consumer. There's some that will not. It depends on the funeral home, the funeral service. It depends on which funeral home you're going to. The funeral home down the street may not always be the best option. So it really depends. That's why it's extremely important, like I share with you, shop, 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 shop the market. What happens initially when the first initial call comes in and the passing occurs, the families sit down and they meet with a licensed funeral director. The funeral director is required to provide that family with a general price list and go over the different services that they offer. You don't necessarily have to purchase a package from a funeral home. You can do an itemized service depending on what your wishes are. A lot of folks may say, well, I just want to be cremated. And that's not always the case. Cremation may be the final disposition that you want as far as your body. But what I'm seeing a lot in the industry is a lot of families are wanting to have some sort of closure as far as the memorial service, as far as the visitation before the cremation takes place. And there are several options and different scenarios or different things that you can do when it comes to funerals. Like you can do what we call an immediate burial, where you just do a direct burial. There's no services involved. And that tends to be a little bit cheaper than most traditional funeral services. What I'd like to share also with a lot of folks is those who have a prepaid funeral. A lot of people will say, well, I don't need to prepay my funeral. I have plenty of money, or some people have prepaid. Those of you that have a prepaid funeral, that's the smartest thing to do right now. That is truly the best way to get ahead of the funeral home industry. You have to prepay. You have to lock in your rates. I recommend it because the rates go up, and these funeral homes have a permit where they're able to issue a policy, an insured policy, whether it's in a trust-based account or it's an insure-funded account. It's a funeral prepaid policy, and they are required by the state of Texas to guarantee those goods and services. And now's the time for a lot of families to really start considering getting all their final affairs in order, because this is only going to help benefit the family in the long run by pre-planning and pre-paying. What sets me apart from the industry is that I don't work for the funeral homes. I'm able to guide you. A lot of families have a hard time trying to call different funeral homes to get different prices. If you are one of those families that do need the guidance, do need the help, I can definitely guide you on the best way and the alternative to be able to save on your final disposition. As far as the prepaid policy, whether it's prepaid or at need, but the prepaid policies, they do lock in the rate and services. You do fill out documentation indicating that these are your last final wishes, whether it's just direct cremation or direct burial. It's extremely important for you to be prepared, especially if you're wanting cremation, because right now, the average cost in the industry is ranging anywhere between $3,500 to $7,000 just for direct cremation. And a lot of you may say, well, I can get my loved one cremated for $800, $1,000, or $2,000, what have you. But bottom line is we have to stop and think, are these little crematory facilities going to still be in business? What if they go out of business? Who's going to be able to honor that contract at the time of need? So a lot of questions, a lot of important things. That's why it's extremely important for you to have a policy that's going to cover everything that you need in a direct cremation, down to refrigeration fee to the funeral director fees. There's also a lot of fees that are involved under a cash advance policy, where underneath the funeral benefits policy, there's a cash advance where you would have to put in police escorts, death certificates, flowers. There's a lot of fees associated and a lot of planning to do when you're having to plan a funeral service. And the hardest and most difficult time to have to plan these services.
I'm not sure if we've lost Stephanie. So I guess we will take a look at all the comments for a minute. We've had a lot of people. Hi, everyone, for watching. Thank you guys so much. We're going to give Stephanie a second to see if the internet comes back up. We have a few people. Sandra, hi. Thank you guys so much for watching. We see your comment. Hi. We also have Jacqueline. Hello. Thank you guys for joining us. And Sandra, again, yes, this is all some really great information. I personally haven't ever had to plan a funeral, but I know that there's so much that goes into it, and she's just doing a great job at explaining some of the different things that you need to think about. And I'm not sure if we're going to get her back right now, but oh, it looks like we did just get her back. So we'll bring her back up.
There we
Hi,
go.
Stephanie. I think we just lost you for a second, but
yeah, sorry.
It's all right. The internet.
I think it's the internet. Right. So what I do want to share with y'all as well on the cemetery plots, and I'm kind of just going back and forth a little bit and trying to get as much information, because I know there's a few families who are interested in cremation and a few who are interested in burial. So I'm trying to give everyone a fair chance to kind of listen to both options. But cemetery plots right now, folks, are extremely expensive. On an average, a cemetery plot is going to range anywhere between $4,000 to $12,000 for just one cemetery plot, not including the opening and closing, which can range anywhere between $1,400 to $2,000. And then that doesn't even include half of the time the concrete liner, which goes in the ground. So there is a lot of fees associated with funeral planning that you need to be aware of, because nowadays there's families that are paying anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000 to bury their loved one. Especially, if they've lost a child, they're spending a tremendous amount of money. So very, very important. As a funeral broker, I will tell you this: I help facilitate all the documentation involved when it comes to a transfer of cemetery property. I also do help a lot of families save money on final expenses on end-of-life planning. There are payment plans available. Insurance products, life insurance policies are very good to have. I'm not saying that they're not. However, what I will share with you, some of these funeral homes are charging anywhere between 4% up to 15% to have to go through a third party to file a claim. That's an extra expense that you're going to incur, besides the additional fees that you will incur for the funeral expenses. So I do recommend, as I've mentioned to you over and over again, to be prepared and pre-plan your final arrangements. A lot of families don't even know what to do here in the United States. Imagine if you're traveling abroad, if you're traveling to another country, another state to visit your grandchildren, and you don't expect to pass away. That's also an expense that you're going to incur to bring the body all the way back to Houston. I am dealing with a family right now who, unfortunately, the mother is under hospice care. She's about to pass away any day now. And they're trying to do a transfer of a burial to Indiana. And when I contacted the funeral director in Indiana, I was trying to I'm trying to help this family kind of get all the fees in order, because I'm not a funeral director, but I'm guiding them on what the fees are involved before the mother passes away. And unfortunately, sad to say, the funeral director had to tell me to hold on for a moment because they had just undergone a price increase about a week ago. And the funeral homes are going up on their rates each and every year. And it's not something that's being told to the public. One thing that you will never ever see is you will never see a funeral home promoting for you to buy a prepaid funeral policy. A lot of funeral directors frown on the fact that I educate a lot of folks on getting them to try to pre-plan and get their affairs in order. They do not want you to pre-plan. The best way for the market or the industry to make their money is at the time of need, when you walk into their facility. So if you want to get ahead of the game, if you want to be able to have a funeral the way you want to have it without having to spend so much money, as I mentioned before, and I'll tell you it again, you've got to be prepared. You've got to pre-plan. You're welcome to go to my website at sylegacy.net. I got a lot of good information at sylegacy.net. You can research my website, take a look at that. You're also welcome to go to funeralshouston.org as well. And like I said, just be proactive and shop the market. I think this pretty much ends our segment. I thank you so much for watching and tuning in today. It's been very difficult to talk about funerals for me, even though this is my expertise. But it's not the easiest subject to have to talk about. It's a very uneasy topic. But hopefully I can make it easy enough for everyone to truly understand and guide you on the best way to be prepared without having to spend so much money on final arrangements. So, Darian, are there any other questions?
We did have a few comments come in, so we really appreciate you guys commenting and sharing your thoughts with us along the way. No questions really, but we did have a few people say that they've never heard about this before. They didn't know that any of these things existed. So thank you for joining us and answering some of these questions.
Thank you, Miss Sandra. I saw Miss Sandra's message.
And if no one else has any other questions, we were talking about doing another segment on pre-planning and why it's important and other ways, things to think about and questions to ask while you're planning. And so we'll be having that in the next couple of weeks. So be on the lookout for that. And then I'm going to put up Stephanie's contact information really quick up on the screen. If any of you guys do want to contact her. And then, oh, there it is. There it is up on the screen. You can email her or give her a call. And I think that is everything we have for you guys this afternoon. Thank you again, Stephanie.
Thank you.
We're going to close off, and we'll see you guys later this week for some more Hot Topic Live segments.